Alrighty guys, if we can resume please. Well, everybody can take a seat. We're gonna get going right now. Nice 10-minute break, stretch your legs, get the blood flowing again. Alright. So the next question, we'll be starting with our mayors, the candidates, and Maggie's question is, given the economic impacts of the reserve in town, what can the town do to be more welcoming and cooperative both with individuals and the blood tribe?
I chose a question that was given to us on the list of questions, and I found it intriguing and interesting. Brought me to some reflection. Many business owners that I speak to tell us that about 60 to 80% of their business is driven by members of the blood tribe. It's huge. This is significant for the business community and for the town. We can't ignore it. So I was thinking, if that is the case, what should the business community do to show customer appreciation? And I thought, what a good idea it would be for the business community and the Chamber of Commerce as a whole, not as individual, to participate in a sponsorship for the power with the town's support and in collaboration with our blood tribe neighbors. I think that would be a fantastic and very good model. Up to now, it was driven by the town fund, your taxes dollar. And with participation with the tribe, I must say. How to be more welcoming to our neighbors to the north? Well, the same way as it should be for anybody that we encounter in this town. Anybody is our neighbor. Work with a golden rule and learn to be cooperative, work together, build relation, trust, and solve problems that are of social nature in our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. So Barbara, the question you have for us is, what attributes do you bring with you to the mayor's seat?
Number one, common sense. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. You've got to be able to look at things in an open and full view in the light. Courage. I am not afraid to say what is what. Community spirit. I love this town. This is where I want to spend the rest of my life, the rest of my living days. I want to see this town prosper. I love being here. Respect and appreciation of area heritage. Everyone knows that I purchased the Laidlaw store. It was killing me to see it sit empty. It was a part of this area's heritage. It needed to be restored. It needed to be brought back. And I absolutely mortgaged everything I had to do so. Drive to self-educate and find answers. I'm willing to admit I'm not always right, and I don't always know everything, but I always can find someone to help me learn what I need to find. Entrepreneurial drive, I've already mentioned. If you don't have a job, make one. I seriously believe there are enough opportunities in this town. There are things that we're missing that when people start looking at what's available and what we don't have, there are opportunities here. There's lots of them. It just takes some community spirit. And I'm future-minded. I want to see Cardston here in the future. I want to see us succeed. Regardless of global influences or anything else, I want us to be here and to be a solid, firm community supporting each other.
Thank you, Barbara. Tim, what do I love about Cardston?
It does seem like I should be up here as a cheerleader right now. When I wrote this question, I thought what my sister had to say. She lives in Raymond. I grew up in Raymond. But she said, what is it about Cardston? Even when you don't have good teams, everybody's out there cheering them on. And I thought, bingo. That's what I love about Cardston. That's what I love about I often ask myself, why did I coach for 25 years? 2 terms on council, maybe trying to get a 3rd term on council. All these people up here giving up their free time. And she nailed it. There's something about this town that makes you fall in love with it. And I'm looking out here and I can see Jack sitting there, and I see Noel sitting there, and James. Volunteers, all of them, everybody volunteering here. And it's almost required of us to be like that. So what do I love about this town? The highest charitable people in Canada. The life expectancies are great. We live till we're 85 or 90 years old. History in this town. We're one of the oldest towns in Alberta. We have a tremendous theater. We've got nationally recognized musical people. We've won 6 provincial titles in the last 10 years. This town is tremendous. We are very friendly, strong family values and strong ties. The temple sits as a pinnacle of our town. It's beautiful. The scenery, provincial parks, what else I've got? Lots of white streets and Neat Creek. The list can go on and on. There's something about this town that makes you want to serve this town. And these guys and gals sitting up here are proof of that. And why am I trying to become mayor? Because I believe I can do a great job in this town. I think this is the most beautiful town in Alberta. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. So what we have now, we're going to keep the mic there at the mayor candidate's table, and we're just going to shuffle back the way we came. And the chamber has generated a panel of questions. Each of you will be asked one, and we will give you another 2 minutes to answer. You don't need to take all 2 minutes if you don't want to, but after 30 seconds warning, the flag will be up, and I'll come grab the mic again if you run over. So we'll just start with you, Tim, since you got the mic in your hand already. Why is Cardston one of the highest tax communities in Alberta, and what will you do to change that?
Number one, I think that's a little bit false. I don't think we are the highest tax community in Alberta. We are very much the same level as most people in most places in Alberta. The way we get our taxes down, unfortunately, is to either attract gas and oil or attract a very large business. Our administration is very, I won't call them penny pinchers, but they're very, very careful with the money that we have. I've been on council for 6 years, and I'm trying to think, but I don't think our taxes have gone up more than 2%. Our mill rate, our assessment has gone up. There's a whole different ballgame there. Our school taxes have gone up. Nothing we can do about that as well. So to suggest that we're one of the highest tax towns in Alberta, I really don't buy that. I don't believe that's true.
Thank you. Barbara, there's been talk about a college coming to Cardston. What are you willing to do to help this happen?
Whatever it takes.
Thank you. And Maggie. Cardston has established itself as a family-oriented community. How can that be used to help our town grow?
I really honestly believe that what attracted me to this community is exactly the values that are portrayed in this community. I love this community for its family value, traditional value, for the ability to really raise a family in that community. I really think that to attract the people to this community, we need to start to really market our uniqueness. We're unique, but we're unique with values, and that should be really marketed. Let's attract people who are able to work from their home and stay with their family in this community. Kimberley has a lot of those type of family. We can do the same and find those people to work from home with their family in an environment that is safe, beautiful, open. How much better do you want it? I came from Belgium to live in this community. I believe in these people. I believe in this beauty. Let's work together to attract more people.
Thank you, Maggie. Rob, what ways can you see the town save taxpayers money?
Well, that's a difficult one for many of the same reasons that Tim actually touched on there, in that our administration's done a great job at keeping our costs down. The only way that we're going to be able to lower the taxes that individuals are paying is if we reverse the current trend that we have, where most of our taxes are generated from residential taxes as opposed to business taxes. And so we need to attract more business in the town. We need to attract more people in the town. We benefit from a lot of great programs and recreation facilities in town. Those things cost money, and when we choose to have those, we need to understand that we're going to pay for them. And we've got them, we're paying for them. If we want to get our taxes down, we're going to have to attract more people into town.
Thank you all. Dennis. In order to attract young couples to our town, we need moderate income housing. What should be done to make this happen?
You picked on me for sure, instead of a realtor.
Completely random, right?
Well, it's really, it's important that we probably should create a foundation like they did in Lethbridge. Lethbridge has the Green Acres Foundation, and they did some research into how they could get low income or low cost housing for seniors. And I think that we've done a great job here in town. We've got the Temple City Villa, we've got the Chinook, we've got the Lee Crest. They provide some great housing for those people, but I realize that seniors want to live too on their own. We could probably do some research that could find out where if there are contractors, people that could come in here and build some facilities. I think the town needs to provide some land so that these properties can be, can be built. The zoning has to be built, and I think citizens need to be willing to allow that type of housing to be put up in their areas. We have to look at that, and I think that it's going to take a lot of work. I think a lot of research first. It's not going to happen overnight, but I believe that if we do get a foundation and get brainstorming and talk about it, we can find that there are people out there willing that will put that in there. Because I know there are seniors that want to come here, they're looking for that type of housing. I have them come into my office a lot and ask me about it. So I understand that you need to have people who are willing to talk about it, and then it will happen.
Thank you, Dennis. Richard, communication is key when in government. How can you improve this so the taxpayers are always informed?
Well, we started, and like I said, I was with two individuals that started the local television channel. We need to continue to use that television channel. We need to use the newspaper more. We also need to possibly put out a quarterly newsletter and let the citizens know what's happening. But we need to encourage participation from the citizens to the council meetings. Like Councillor Edmund says, you can count on two hands how many people sit in the gallery during council meetings. And I've witnessed that also with the past 4 years' experience sitting on council. So we need to encourage those people to come to council and listen to what is happening, all sides of the views, and then contact the councillors and discuss their points of view with the councillors and make sure that you return a report. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Alan, are you in favor of limiting the number of the same type of businesses in town?
No. And I think that we live in a free country. If people want to set up a business here, whether it be fast food, whether it be a hardware store, what right does the council have to say, no, we've got two of those, you can't come in here? They're putting their capital into establishing these businesses. And the risk money is theirs, it's not the town's. It's their money that they're putting in here, and I don't think we have a right, or should have a right, to limit the types of business that come in and how many of each category.
Bill, a lot is talked about being transparent. How do you plan on doing so, and what do the residents of Cardston need to do to access your efforts?
Okay, transparency, it also involves communication, which has been talked about. We can never actually do enough, but it's two-sided as well. We have to have involvement, interest. As a former councillor once said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. As far as transparency and making sure that people have a chance to hear about it, I guess there's one thing that I can promise, because I've done this before. I will make sure that no bylaw passes 3 readings in one night that affects citizens of the community, that there's always a gap between the first and the 3rd reading. One person can stop that. I'll do that. And anything else that I can do, and make sure that I'm open to talk to anyone and give them the correct information that I have, and put them in touch with people that can give them correct information as much as that is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Dexter, are you in favor of allowing restaurants in our town to serve alcohol?
That's a good question. I don't believe, like some people believe, that by allowing alcohol in the community that all of a sudden all of our economic woes will be solved. I'm not necessarily opposed. My understanding is it's a provincial law, it's not a municipal law that the town can change. But I don't see that the addition of alcohol would do as much as some people think for our economy. I think that some businesses in the golf course may raise additional revenues than they would otherwise, but I don't necessarily believe that it'll attract a lot more business and be of great benefit to the community.
Thank you, Dexter. Mark, what is your opinion on the current state of our emergency services?
Well, that's a good one. I'm very proud of our emergency services. They are well-trained, they keep up on their education, they promote themselves, they recruit, and what I'm really excited about is getting the young people involved in that program and seeing them out there. In my profession, when there's something that goes amiss or awry out there, I'm called. And when I got there, it's really great to see the efficiency of our emergency service and how quickly they respond and how well they do their job. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, Mark. Dave, given the economic impacts of the reserve in the town, what can the town do to be more welcoming and cooperative, both with individuals and the blood tribe?
Well, I think one of the things we can do is treat them as equals. Just because your skin is a different color than what yours is doesn't make you any different. I think we need to say hello to these people when we see them on the street. We have a few that cause problems around town, but that's a very few. And you've probably noticed that we have more and more native people living in the town itself. They want to get away from the problems that are on our reserve, and so we need to make them feel welcome. We're also working to improve our relationships with the blood tribe by holding meetings with them and discussing many things that we have in common. So I think if we do these things, we can increase our relationships with these people.
Thank you, Dave. Marcia, are you in favor of removing fluoride from our drinking water?
Well, that's certainly a loaded question. I think what I'm in favor of at this time is a plebiscite where we can get informed on the pros and the cons, what's good about fluoride, what isn't, and then a vote by the community would be the way to go. My personal opinion, I'm from the generation where fluoride was considered the greatest thing to come for dental health. But today, with so many chemicals in our foods, in our ground where our food is grown, and the feed for our animals, I'm wondering how much our bodies can tolerate and still remain healthy. So I'd like to get more information on that to make a more educated statement.
Thank you, Marcia. Bill, we have a beautiful community, but there are some trashy yards. What are you willing to propose to make our entire town beautiful?
That's a very valid question. Cardston is a beautiful town. It's known far and wide as a beautiful town, and yet there are a few individuals who maybe aren't as responsible with their property as we would like them to be. So the question comes up, gee, who can we get to force these people to comply? And I know that poor bylaw officer, enforcement officer, he gets called all the time. Hey, get over there and fix this. You gotta get over there. And first of all, I would like to see those people maybe at least talk to their neighbor first before calling the bylaw officer. But second, you know, I'm wondering if they've offered to assist in any way. Again, it goes back to the volunteerism. I think sometimes we're looking over the fence a little too much, and we need to maybe look inward as to how we can be the solution to the problem. We have to be very careful when we use government to force specific things on people. And you know, it's a very fine line, and we're crossing a very gray area there. So again, anytime it comes down to creating a law, we need to be very careful. Now that being said, we all could do better at volunteering maybe to keep our town beautiful. And I know the Community in Bloom's program does a great job of that. We've seen a lot of people volunteer, do great things. Again, I'm not sure maybe if government is the solution, but I know that the people in Cardston can step up and make great strides in that. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Patricia. Cardston has a lot of homeschooled children. Tell me your thoughts on homeschooling.
When homeschooling is done well, it's wonderful. Every family has different needs. If homeschooling fits, great. If they choose to do part-time at the alternate school and part-time in the public school and the student is having success, again, wonderful. I know children who have been homeschooled and are responsible citizens. I know children who have been public schooled and are responsible citizens. All education needs to be adapted for the students and the family's needs.
Thank you, Patricia. Blaine, do you really think that having a half day on Friday is doing any good?
I thought about that question all week. The half-day Fridays has been in place in Westwood School Division for many, many years. It's very popular with students, very popular with parents, very popular with teachers. The evidence would indicate that there's no harm done by adjusting the length of school days to a certain point. There are school districts and schools, even in Alberta, that go on 4-day weeks. They take the Friday entirely off for various reasons. Students in those schools achieve very well. Students in our schools who take the half-day off Fridays achieve very well. I don't believe that the half-day Friday is a big issue. It hasn't been brought to my attention in many, many, many years. So I believe that the half-day Friday is probably neutral, but due to its popularity, most people would think it's very good.
Thank you, Blaine. Denise.
Be kind.
Be kind, Lord. I just have a list. Are there any plans to have a watchdog committee so that employees of the school board are accountable?
I'm wondering if that question really means if the school division is accountable rather than the school board, in which case my answer would be that is what the school board is for, is to make sure that the administration is responsible. I think there has to be a great amount of communication, and in all the fiscal matters and things like that need to be transparent. So no, I don't think there will be a watchdog. I don't think there'll be a watchdog committee for the school board, but I do think the school board is the watchdog committee for the administration.
Thank you, Denise. Ken, you're going to get double whammied again. Sorry, you're at the end of the table. So we'll have you 2 questions in a row here. What are your thoughts on having the teacher's performance graded and made publicly known?
I think our teachers are professional, and you know, I think the only profession where we have percentages, maybe baseball. You know, if someone is batting at 300, they're doing a pretty good job. In our schools, we have the teacher qualifications or knowledge, skills, and attributes. And all teachers need to have those qualifications if they're going to have a continuing contract. And so, this way, it's a great responsibility that we have principals to make sure that our teachers are evaluated. I don't think we want to go into merit pay. The better the job the teacher does, the more that they are paid. I think that we're in a system where we have collaboration. If we had, teachers graded, we would say teachers would be in competition with one another instead of collaboration. And so I'm fully aware that we live in a society where we need to do our best. Principals need to do their responsibilities in supervising and make sure that all of our teachers are living up to their expectations in their responsibilities.
Thank you. So the next set of questions, same thing, we're going to go from one end down to the next. These questions were brought up by the community, and they are actually aimed at the individual candidate, and they were brought up to Brent here, so I'm not making these up, they are actually aimed at the person receiving. So we'll start with Ken again. It is my understanding that your role is to represent the children and parents and to protect their interests and safety among other things. They seem invisible at times. Concerns have gone directly to the school and dealt with the issue there. How do the trustees plan on playing and fulfilling the representation between families and school?
That's a long question. Remember the first part of it. I think that what we need to do is that parents need to feel that they have input into their school system. When I was in Mountain View, I had an open door policy, so if someone had a concern, whether it's parents or students, they're able to come in and discuss their concerns. There is a procedure that we need to follow, that if there is a parent having a problem, the best way to solve it is with the teacher. If that isn't solved that way, they can go to the principal and then to the superintendent and the school board. And so I think it's really important that, we have the collaboration, that we work together. I know that parents send their best to our schools, and so it's our responsibility to do our best with their best. And I also believe that there's always room to improve. You don't have to be sick to get better. And so I think that what we need to take a look at is say where we are and how we're going to improve. And to do that, we have to have all stakeholders involved and take all stakeholders' concerns seriously.
Thank you, Ken. Denise, after hearing that high-position personnel got huge raises for themselves and support staff got nothing, I am concerned. How can you encourage our educational tax dollars to be used for education instead of excessive spending on salaries and perks?
That's tough. I agree that there needs to be more educational dollars going towards the students and the classroom aids to help the students, rather than and less be going to administration and all the perks that they seem to have. I'm in between two people here. I'm the only person on this table not associated with West Wind in any way. And so I think this is a dangerous question that you guys, whoever it was, has asked me. I'm not sure yet how I could ensure that that the tax dollars go more to the students, because I've never been on a school board before and I'm not sure of how it works, except I know that I will be very diligent in voting for, in my vote, whether I will withhold my vote if I feel that the students are suffering because of the perks that are being given to administration. I believe that the schools are there for the students and not for the administration.
Thank you, Denise. Blaine, what are your thoughts on better special needs programming in the junior and senior high schools? What resources are there for them for learning and growth to live in society after graduation? Do you see a need for change in that area? Do you feel our special needs students are getting everything they possibly need to succeed in life after graduation?
I think that was 4 questions. I'll work my way through them. In the past 5 years, we worked quite diligently to increase and improve the supports given to junior high and high school students. My previous time was spent in the elementary level, where I jealously guarded all the supports I had for the students that I was responsible for. But yes, we do need to provide better, more appropriate, and more supports for students in the junior and senior high schools who don't learn at the same rate as other students do. That's something that I have been working on, but I wasn't alone in that. The school board, the previous board, as well as administration in the schools also agree that that's an area for priority.
Thank you, Dave. Patricia, isn't running for school board a conflict of interest when your spouse works at the division office? If a situation arose where shutdowns are imminent, how could one tackle the big stuff if you could possibly put your spouse's job in jeopardy?
That's a good question. I don't think there's a conflict in interest. There have been situations like this before on school board, where there have been teachers that are spouse of a teacher who have served on school board. I think I'm capable of keeping those things separate. And the loss of the job, is like, one more time?
It says, if a situation arose where shutdowns are imminent, how could one tackle the big stuff if you could possibly put your spouse's job in jeopardy? That's all I got for you.
Well, my spouse doesn't work for the union, the teachers' union, so he'd probably have to do a lot of work, actually. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that question, sorry.
Thank you. Bill, how can you encourage the Blood Tribe to help with the vagrancy issue on Main Street?
Well, I know they've been concerned. I know the chief and council have been looking for ways to step up, but it is a delicate issue. There are freedoms. There's no law against walking the Main Street. And so that has been a hard one for our town. But I think what it boils down to is, what are we as a people willing to do? How often do we take the initiative to stretch forth a hand and get to know them, maybe ask if there's anything we can do to help? I'm not sure if government is the best solution to that question. I think that the people, and as you say, encouraging the chief, the council, his council, the people from Moses Lake, etc., to come and just participate a little more. Perhaps if we created more activities that would get them a little more actively involved in what was going on downtown, I think they'd start to get a sense of ownership, and they'd start to really care about those sensitive issues. So, but definitely, I think it is a concern, and it is something we need to sit down and talk real solutions about, find real solutions for. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Marcia, given the economic impact of the reserve in the town, what can the town do to be more welcoming and cooperative both with individuals and the Blood Tribe?
I think our town does a pretty good job of that. Our community, our business people, our schools certainly have reached out to our neighbors to the north. I've had opportunities for the past 5 years to do a lot of volunteer work on the reserve and have come to know a lot of families. Some of you may not know, but my husband and I have 3 status adopted children, which was one of the reasons why we chose Cardston, was to give them an opportunity. I have found personally that a smile and hello just opens up all kinds of favorable responses from the native people. When you see them in the town, make them feel that they're just as welcome as you are. When there's opportunities to serve, I've been asked to talk about how to start a small business, two groups on the reserve for women in particular, what they need to do, where they need to go to get the information that they want. Many of them have cottage industries that certainly could be promoted and could grow. And I think that those of us who have had opportunities to be in business or be associated with friends or family that are in business, we have a wealth of experience that the Native people would love to be able to tap into, and for us to be able to assist them in simple things. The last time that the council was, it was where do we go to get certain supplies at wholesale? And I think this is beneficial. If we just smile and say hello, be willing to help.
Thank you, Marcia. Dave, economic development is vital. Lots of industries have started here, but none survive. Why?
We're sort of the end of the chain. Our biggest partner would be in the U.S. if we could do it, but we cannot compete with the prices. And we've seen that one of the big companies that we had that was doing quite well found that it was much cheaper to manufacture everything in the United States or in Europe. It's very hard to compete with that. Even if we offer tax incentives for the companies to stay here, they can still do it cheaper elsewhere. And the other problem we have is we don't have a workforce. If I was to come here with a business and needed 500 employees, I would not be able to fill it. And that's what we're facing. The other problem is that if you set up a business here, people don't support it. They find it much easier to drive to Lethbridge and spend 2 hours, an hour there, an hour back, and save 15 cents. But it's cost them $50 in gas. There's no logic to it, but then they can also go to the movies and go out for a nice dinner.
Thank you, Dave. Mark, there's been talk about installing security cameras around town. What's more important, privacy or security?
Well, I think that's a little bit of both on the security cameras. They've been used in Europe for years, and if you don't realize it right now, there's actually several cameras already on Main Street. I have found that if you're not doing anything wrong, it's not a security issue. What it really does help, though, is when they particularly people know that there's cameras there, they have a tendency to behave themselves. And I think it's not a privacy issue, it's a social issue. Part of that social solution is to put cameras. It would be a good idea. I think also you might want to include maybe some Disney music, because I understand vagrants don't like Disney music, so that might work too.
Thank you, Mark. So for Dexter's question, just for clarification, because the word in here, some people may or may not know the definition, is nepotism. And by definition, the favoring of relatives or personal friends because of their relationship rather than because of their abilities. So the question for Dexter is, nepotism seems to be an issue in any of our governing bodies. How will you control it?
Well, I think I've had a lot of experience dealing with those sort of policies, and I believe that the main thing is to have a broad enough hiring committee that one person alone does not determine who gets employment within the town or in any other organization for that matter. So I think if you have a broad range of personnel sitting in on interviews so that nobody has all ultimate say in hiring, that's how you would combat nepotism in the town.
Thank you, Dexter. Bill, money's coming in from grants to the town and diminishing. How can the town maintain its infrastructure without raising taxes?
That's a real challenge for us. One of the first things that I learned on council when I went to the AUMA conventions was quite enlightening to me is that out of all taxes collected, the municipalities get about 8 cents out of every dollar. The province gets 42 cents out of every dollar, and the federal government's about 50 cents. So municipalities are quite disadvantaged. Most of the infrastructure is in the municipalities. We need to talk to our MLAs, we need to talk to our members of parliament, we need to let them know that our community is important. There's probably some changes that need to be made in the overall tax structures. That's not going to happen right away, but we need to be aware of where the money is. We need to be fiscally responsible in our community, and I have to say that our administration has been fiscally responsible and have been also planning for that contingency as grants do diminish, that we are more sustainable. So that we haven't overlooked that possibility, but there's definitely a need to do all we can. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Alan, it seems like some members of our community are getting special treatment. Are you willing to stand up to them so that everybody is treated the same?
Every resident of Cardston has a right, the same rights as anybody else in town. It doesn't really matter who they are, what business they have, or if they have no business. I think they should be treated equally, each and every one, regardless of their race, creed, belief, or their capital investment.
Thank you. Richard, you're giving me that school teacher look there, guy. There seems to be more staff to run the town than there was, say, 20 years ago. Our town hasn't grown to that much of a degree in that time. Why is our taxes spent on all this extra staff instead of our infrastructure?
That's an interesting question. But if you look at the office and the structure of the office, our staff were actually understaffed in a lot of areas. Now, people can argue with that until they go in and talk to the staff who are actually doing the jobs. They say that computers cut down manpower, they increase the manpower that's needed. But we also are in the 21st century, and so if we've got staff that's accessing grants, working on infrastructure replacement and things like that, there is a lot of designated jobs that our staff are doing. And yes, I feel that in some cases we are overstaffed, but in most cases our CAO has done an excellent job in looking at the staff that we need and enabling our town to have that staff.
Thank you, Richard. Dennis, what is the difference between governing and representing to you as an elected official?
Say that again, please.
What is the difference between governing and representing to you as an elected official?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, as a representative of the town, I really don't have, in relationship to the town, our governor basically is our CAO. She's the one that runs the town office, and she is amenable to the council. We talk with her, and we would help her to make those decisions. She has to report back to us. She does a wonderful job, and we don't have to interfere with Marion, especially. She does a great job in this town. She has ever since she's working here. And I think that we just can be there to advise her, to help her. She's going to be the one that tells us a lot about the bylaws. She knows more than the council does. She's guiding us too. But she's amenable to the council, and we just need to advise her and be aware of what's going on so that she can do her job properly. I don't think we have to tell her how to do her job, because she got the expertise. We're there just to support her and help her to do her job properly.
Thank you, Dennis. Rob, if elected, how will the citizens of Cardston know that you will not use your position to influence council for your own personal agenda?
Well, I guess I don't have a personal agenda that I can see that there's anything that the town council could help me to promote. My agenda is pretty simple, that I want to help this town to grow so that we can see more, so that we can see a lower tax base, a better employment record here so that our fathers can stay at home. And that's my agenda. So I really don't understand the question as far as what my personal agenda would be. There's no hidden agendas here.
Thank you. Maggie, a mayor in a struggling town needs new direction. We cannot keep doing the same things with the same results. What new direction do you have in plan?
I really believe that is a very good question. For 20 years we have tried to attract industry in a certain way, and it has not worked. It's time for us to look at a different model. For example, the model was to always try to obtain, attract investment on our own. I think it's time for partnership. It's time to work with other bodies around us in order to be able to join hands. For example, have a common economic development officer possibly, and for tourism, to be able to develop new ideas, define a new model where we can be more efficient and find solutions.
Thank you. Barbara, a mayor needs to be the driving force for inviting industry. Little things like tourism, for example, rarely provide large amounts of jobs at decent wages to support families. What types of things can we do to invite and encourage investors to build here?
Number one, be nice. Make this the place that they want to live. Make this the community they want to set up in. Then we need to make sure there's infrastructure available to them for their size of industry. If there's not a water source big enough for whatever they need to create their industry, then we have a problem. So make sure we have the infrastructure, make sure that this is a destination they want to be in, and industry will come as we invite it.
Thank you, Barbara. Tim, like all small towns, there is division. How can you, as mayor, unify our town?
I think as a community, we need to understand that there's a couple of very strong cultures here, and there's other people here that are not necessarily of the majority faith. I think as a mayor, we need to, and a council, we need to step out of our way to include these people in our community. I made mention that in my opening speech, that there are a lot of new faces here. We need to step out of our way and find them. As an aside, I'd like to thank all of you people that have survived the evening. You've done very well sitting up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. So that's all we've got for the candidates here, guys, today. So take what you've gotten, and hopefully everybody gets out to the polls. And it's 9:30 now, so we've kind of gone fairly late. But thanks for coming out, everybody, and hopefully we'll...
There's one thing I wanted to bring up. I taught from 1955. I think my voice is carrying. I taught from 1955 to 1995. During that period of time, I taught on Monday through Friday afternoon. Now, I do not believe there is a reason to have off at Monday or Friday noon. I'm sorry. And this is an individual who spent many a time coaching and helping out with drama, and I did that after school. And this is the one thing I think you should consider very well, because if the teachers are getting paid to teach, then I think they should be teaching Monday through Friday. That's 10 months of the year. I taught in the United States for 8 years, and guess what? I had to find a part-time job in the States in order to continue on with 6 or 4 children at that time. I got up here, we had 4 children at the time. I was going to work part-time for an insurance investigation company, and I found out I didn't have to do that part-time because I was making big bucks. And that's why I say I think that It's time to realize that. The other thing I want to just bring up, I think that it wouldn't be bad if you get to know natives by maybe going out to the reserve. I have 3 children who married natives. And by gosh, I taught out on the Blood Reserve for 13 years and the Pecani for 5 years out of total of 35 years. And my goodness, that was worth 18 of the best years of my teaching career. That's all I have to say. Good night.
Thank you, sir. So thanks for coming out, everybody, and we will see you at the polls.